Welcome everyone. Today I want to take you on a special journey. This is the story of a simple boy who could not speak English. People laughed at him, ignored him, and thought he would never do anything big. But he didn't give up. He worked hard every single day and used smart ways to improve himself. Slowly, he changed his life. From knowing nothing, he became a strong speaker. He started earning in dollars and began living his dream life. Hello, my name is Ryan. Today I want to share how I learned English. This is not just a story, it's my life. I went from being scared of English to speaking it with confidence. Please stay with me till the end. I locked this story inside me for many years. Every time I remembered it, I felt like a loser. It made me feel small and weak. But today, I am ready to tell it. Maybe you need to hear it right now. Maybe something inside you will change when you hear this. Maybe you'll believe in yourself again. Because the truth is simple. I could not speak English. Not a little, not even broken English. I mean, I truly knew nothing. I used to watch videos like this on YouTube. I would think, wow, I wish I could talk like that too. I saw people in coffee shops speaking English, and they looked like they came from another world, one I didn't belong to. I stayed silent in meetings. I avoided text messages. I cancelled job interviews. I even stopped meeting people. All because I was afraid. I knew that if someone spoke English to me, I would freeze and not know what to say. I would panic. My hands would shake. My heart would beat fast. I felt like a small child again. And that fear didn't just come from nowhere. It started on one cold winter day that I will never forget. That day, I lost all my courage. But that same day also became the beginning of my new life. So I ask you to please listen closely. Put your phone away, close other tabs, and give me your full attention for a few minutes. I am not telling this story because I am some kind of expert. I am telling it because I am just like you. I was lost, scared, and unsure. But I found a way out. And so can you. This is how it all began. It was Monday, January 14th, 2019. I was in New Jersey. The morning was colder than usual, and the sky was grey. I lived in East Orange in a small apartment on the third floor. The building smelled like old newspapers and burnt toast. My room was very simple. There was a single bed pushed into one corner. A broken white desk stood near the window. It was a gift from a kind neighbor. A tall metal lamp stood next to it, but it flickered when turned on. That morning, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. My interview wasn't till 9, but I hadn't slept the whole night. My heart was heavy with fear. I had been jobless for 3 months, and my money was almost finished. The job interview was at a company called Bright Line Communications. It was a small office in Newark. The company helped with customer support for online stores. It wasn't a fancy job, but for me it meant hope. It meant a chance to survive. At that time, I had exactly $48.13 in my bank account. My rent was due in 12 days. If I didn't get this job, I had no idea what I would do. I had no backup, no support, no plan. The job paid $14.50 an hour. If I worked 40 hours a week, I could just make it through each month. I had applied online and got an email reply. That message felt like a gift. I was so happy to get it. It was just an interview, not a job offer. But still, for someone like me, Even getting a reply felt like winning a prize. I printed out the email, read it again and again, and placed it carefully next to my desk. That morning, I ironed my shirt 3 times. I combed my hair back and used a little bit of my roommate's perfume. I practiced how to say good morning and thank you for the opportunity. I stood in front of the mirror and tried to smile. But deep inside, I was shaking. I knew that the job required speaking English. I had read it in the job description. Must have good spoken English. Those 5 words were like a mountain in front of me. I wasn't ready to climb it. Still, I had to try. I took a deep breath, grabbed my bag, and walked out into the cold morning. I didn't know what the day would bring, but I knew I had to face it no matter what happened next. That one day, that cold Monday morning, changed everything for me. I didn't know it at the time, but it was the start of something big. It was the start of my English journey, and slowly, step by step, my whole life began to change. I spent the next 2 days getting ready for the interview, but I did it the wrong way. I watched random videos, copied English lines I didn't understand, and repeated them like a robot. I still didn't know how to introduce myself. That morning, I shaved my face using cold water. Our apartment had no hot water for 2 days. It was freezing, but I had no choice. I wore a navy blue shirt that I had ironed 5 times to look neat and professional. The shirt was a little tight around my neck, but I buttoned it anyway. I didn't have dress pants, so I wore my old black jeans. They were clean, at least. I wiped my sneakers with wet tissues to make them look new. I wanted to look good, but I knew clothes couldn't hide what I was feeling inside. I didn't feel confident. My hands were shaking as I tied my belt. I kept whispering, "Just smile, speak clearly, be polite. You can do this." At 7:20 a.m., I left my apartment. I decided to walk to the interview place. It was about 45 minutes away. I could have taken the bus, but I didn't want to be late. I thought walking was the safer choice. As I walked, I kept repeating my lines in my head. "Good morning, sir. My name is Ryan. Thank you for giving me this chance. I am hardworking, quick learner, and I... Suddenly, I stopped walking. I had forgotten the next words. I stood still on the sidewalk. My mouth was open, but no words came out. My brain was blank. A man passed by with his dog and gave me a strange look. I forced a small smile and started walking again, feeling nervous. I walked past a Starbucks and saw 2 young men talking in English. Their words were fast and smooth. I only caught a few: weekend, Netflix, deadline. They sounded so natural, like they didn't even think before speaking. I felt so out of place. How did they talk like that? I wondered. How did they always know what to say? It felt like they were part of a special club, a club I could never join. That thought made me feel even more scared and lonely. I reached Brightline Communications at 8:10 a.m. It was too early, but I didn't want to risk being late. The office was on the 5th floor of a gray building with glass doors. The elevator smelled like cheap perfume and metal. I sat in the hallway pretending to check my phone. I had no internet, but I didn't want to look nervous. I looked around. 2 other people were waiting. They wore suits, shiny shoes, and one held a brown folder. They looked perfect. Next to them, I felt smaller, like I didn't belong, like I had walked into the wrong place. Maybe I should leave, I thought. Maybe I wasn't ready for this. But my name was already on their list. I had to stay. At exactly 9 a.m., a woman with red lipstick came out. She held a clipboard and called, "Ryan." I stood up too quickly and almost dropped my phone. "Yes, I'm here," I said. She smiled and told me to follow her inside.
The interview room was small. There was a glass table in the middle. Two men sat across from where I would sit. One had glasses and a serious face. He looked at some papers, then looked up and said, "Hi, Ryan. Tell me about yourself." And that was the moment. That was the exact second when everything I had practiced disappeared from my head. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. My brain was blank. I couldn't remember even the first line. My heart started beating fast. My mouth felt dry. I looked at their faces, but they were waiting. I could feel my hands shaking again. I tried to smile, but I knew it looked fake. My chest felt heavy, like I couldn't breathe. All the lines I had repeated for hours were gone. All the videos I watched, all the phrases I had copied, meant nothing. I was sitting there, frozen. I couldn't believe this was happening. I had waited so long for this chance, but now I was ruining it. It felt like I was back in school, standing in front of the class, afraid to speak. I felt like a little boy again, weak, lost, and full of fear. The worst part was, I knew they saw it. I looked down for a second, hoping the words would come back, but they didn't. I tried to say something, anything, just to fill the silence. I am Ryan, thank you, I said softly. My voice shook. My hands were still shaking. One of the men smiled kindly and nodded, but I could feel the moment slipping away. I knew they were expecting more. I wanted to explain myself. I wanted to tell them I was trying, that I had prepared, that I really needed this job. But I didn't have the English to say all that. I didn't have the words. I sat there, feeling like I had failed before even starting. That interview was only 10 minutes long, but it felt like the longest 10 minutes of my life. When it ended, I thanked them and walked out slowly. I didn't look back. I didn't check my phone. I just walked down the stairs and out into the cold. The wind hit my face, and for a moment, I just stood there. I felt tired. I felt broken. But deep inside, something had changed. I had faced my fear. I had sat in front of interviewers and tried to speak. I didn't do well, but I had taken the first step. That was something. And I promised myself one thing. This would not be the end. I would learn. I would practice the right way. I would understand English, not just repeat it. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I had to try again.
I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I tried again. I'm named Ryan. I very hard work. Good job. You company I like. I could hear myself speak, and I knew I was failing. My heart was beating very fast. My ears felt like they were on fire. I could see the man looking at me. He nodded a little and asked, "What experience do you have with customer support?" I froze. I didn't know what to say. I tried to answer, but my words came out broken. "Yes, sir. I learning fast. I phone call can do." I felt so small. I didn't know where to look. My hands were shaking. My face was hot. The room felt like a jail. I couldn't breathe well. The air felt thick. Even my own voice didn't sound like mine. It was weak and strange, like someone else was talking from my body. I was embarrassed and afraid. The whole interview lasted only 3 minutes. The man looked at my resume, smiled a little, and said, "Thanks for coming, Ryan. We'll contact you." I knew what those words meant. It meant no. It meant you failed. I stood up quietly, thanked him, and left the room. I didn't take the elevator. I didn't want to see anyone or talk to anyone. I walked down all 5 floors by myself. I felt like I was carrying a heavy weight. Outside the building, I kept walking. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even think clearly. I just walked and walked, as if moving could fix what had just happened. After some time, I reached a small park near Branch Brook. There were trees, benches, and a few people. I sat down on a bench and stayed there for almost an hour. I didn't move much. I was just sitting and thinking. In my head, I kept playing the interview again and again. My broken sentences, the confused look on the man's face, the silence, the failure. It was like watching a sad movie on repeat. But this time, the movie was my own life. I started to feel angry at myself. I hated my voice. I hated the fear inside me. I hated the fact that I had let this happen again. I had tried 5 times before, 5 jobs, 5 rejections, all because of English. This time, the job was small. It wasn't anything big or special, but even that was taken away from me. I looked around the park. People were laughing, kids were playing, dogs were running. Everyone was living their life, but I felt like I was stuck, like time had stopped for me. I was just sitting there, frozen, while the world moved on. I felt invisible, like I didn't belong anywhere. That was one of the worst feelings I've ever had. That evening, I walked back to my apartment. I didn't speak to anyone. I skipped dinner. I didn't even turn on the lights. I took off my shoes, lay on my bed, and stared at the ceiling. I didn't move. I kept asking myself the same question. Is this going to be my life? The same fear, the same failure, the same silence? I didn't eat that night. I didn't speak. I didn't check my phone. I just stayed in my room. I was still wearing the same tight navy blue shirt from the interview. My belt hurt my waist. My back was sore. My throat felt dry. My eyes were wide open, but my heart felt closed. I felt empty and broken. That night, for the first time in my life, I felt like I had nothing. No job, no money, no skills, no confidence. Just a cheap phone without internet, a broken desk, and 3 books I had never read. And worst of all, there was a wall. Not a real wall, but it was there. A wall between me and the world. A wall made of words I didn't know. That wall was English, and I hated it. It was holding me back. As I lay there in the dark, a small thought came into my mind. It was quiet, like a whisper, but it was strong. The thought said, "No one is coming to save you." I sat up on my bed slowly. The only light in my room came from the street lamp outside. It made a shadow on the wall. I looked at that shadow, and I said out loud, in my broken English, "If I don't fix this, I will die this way." Those words came from somewhere deep inside me. I knew they were true. Something in me had changed. I didn't want to feel this way ever again. I didn't want to live a life full of silence and fear. That night, January 14th, 2019, I made a promise to myself, a strong promise. I said, I will learn English. I didn't say maybe. I didn't say I'll try. I didn't say just a little. I said I will. I didn't care how long it would take. I didn't care how many times I would fail again. I didn't care how hard it would be. I was ready to start. I was ready to fight. I was ready to change. I wasn't going to wait for someone to help me. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I was tired of being afraid. I was tired of feeling small. I wanted to grow. I wanted to speak. I wanted to live a full life.
I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew there would be bad days. I knew I would feel like quitting many times. But I also knew one more thing. If I didn't start now, I would stay stuck forever. So I promised myself no more excuses, no more waiting, no more fear. That night, in my cold room, with no money, no job, and almost no hope, I made the most important decision of my life. I decided to change my future with my own hands. I decided to break the wall between me and the world. I decided to learn English not just to speak it, but to live it, breathe it, and become it.
I decided that night I would learn English so well that no one could ignore me again. Not next week, not tomorrow, right now. I was tired of feeling weak. I wanted to become strong. So I started immediately. At 1:32 a.m., I opened the drawer beside my bed and took out an old notebook. I wrote one sentence on the first page. I speak English fluently. I just don't know it yet. It felt strong. It felt true. I didn't even know if the sentence was correct, but I didn't care. It gave me hope. I believed in it. That small sentence gave me power. I smiled and told myself, this is the beginning of a new life. I didn't use any expensive apps or join big English classes. I didn't wait for help. I used hunger, discipline, and action. I made my own plan, a simple system, and I followed it day by day without missing a step. The first thing I focused on was my mouth, not my ears. Most people start by listening or reading, but I started with speaking. I had a tall mirror in my room. It was cracked on one side, but it worked. At 2 a.m., I stood in front of the mirror and said, "Hello, my name is Ryan. I am learning English." It felt strange and robotic, but I said it 10 times. The next day, I did it again and again. Then I added more lines. Today I woke up early. I will go to the store. I am not afraid anymore. The sentences were simple, but they helped my mouth learn the sounds. I wasn't just learning. I was becoming a speaker. Next, I created something I called a survival English wall. I took small papers and wrote important phrases on them. I taped them to my wall. One paper said, "How to order food." "I'd like a sandwich, please." "Can I get coffee?" Another paper said, "How to answer the phone." "Good morning. This is Ryan speaking. How may I help you today?" I added new papers every few days. Soon, my whole wall was full. That wall became my daily English teacher. Then I started using my favorite method. I called it the 1-1-1 method. 1 hour, one topic, one result. Every day, I picked a topic. Day 1, talking about myself. I watched YouTube videos on self-introductions for 1 full hour. I wrote 5 key sentences. I practiced them 10 times in the mirror. Then I recorded myself saying them. At the end of 1 hour, I didn't just study. I had a real result. I could now speak better than before. The next day, I chose a new topic, asking for directions. Then the grocery store. Then how to describe my job. Day 5 was about my family. Day 6 was giving my opinion. Day 7 was small talk with strangers. I repeated this method
every day. I kept going no matter what. Some days were hard. Some days I was tired. But I didn't stop. I knew each small step was bringing me closer to my dream. I was changing. Later, I did something powerful. I started building my English identity. That means I made English part of my daily life. I wrote my to-do list in English. I started writing my dreams in English. I even changed my thoughts. Yes, I told myself that Ryan now thinks in English. Every time I had a thought, I tried to think it in English. At first, it was difficult. I made mistakes. But slowly, it became easier. My brain started working differently. I started living like English was normal. It wasn't just a subject anymore. It became my new language, my daily habit, my way of thinking. And the more I used it, the more confident I felt. I knew I was growing.
I made many mistakes in the beginning. I wrote with wrong grammar, my spelling was bad, my sentences didn't make much sense, but I didn't stop. I told myself, you are learning. Every day I picked up the pen and wrote again. Even when I felt sad or alone, I still wrote something. Even one line was better than nothing. I said, today I feel lonely, but I will not stop. I want to speak English one day with confidence. My dream was to speak in front of people. I wanted them to understand me. I wanted them to feel something when I talked. I knew it would be hard. I was scared. But I also felt proud. I was trying. I used Google Translate sometimes. I knew my words were broken, but still, I wrote. I didn't wait for someone to correct me. I just kept going. I wrote about my day, my dreams, my fear, and my small victories. One day I wrote, I believe in myself. I believe in my voice. I didn't plan those words. They came from my heart. When I read them out loud, I cried. Because that day, for the first time, I truly believed them. I didn't have money to join an English class, but I didn't give up. I used my imagination. I decided to turn my small apartment into my own English world. I wanted to live with English, even if I lived alone. I changed the language of my phone to English. At first, it was confusing, but slowly I got used to it. Then I started putting sticky notes all around the house. I wrote the English names of every item I used daily. My fridge had a sticky note that said fridge. My chair had a note. Even my toothbrush had one. I was talking to objects like they were my classmates. It sounds funny, but it helped me remember and speak with more comfort. I knew I didn't live in an English-speaking country, but I thought, if I can't go to English, I will bring English to me. I made English part of my daily life, not for a test, but for my future. Then I started a new habit. Every night, I recorded my voice. I hated hearing myself speak. My pronunciation was bad, my voice sounded strange, but I told myself, do it anyway. You must face it to improve it. I sat on the floor every night before sleep. I opened the voice recorder app on my phone. I pressed record and started talking. I began with one sentence. Today I learned, and then talked about anything I had studied that day. Sometimes I spoke about a new word. Sometimes I told a small story. Sometimes I just talked about how I felt. I spoke for 3 minutes. That's all. At first, it felt silly, but soon it became something powerful. By day 9, I listened to my first recording again.
It was strange. I had already improved a little. My words were clear. I paused less. That moment made me smile. I heard progress, not perfection, and that was enough. Then came something very important. I stopped saying sorry for my English. Before, I always said, "Sorry, my English is not good," or "I can't speak well." I thought people would laugh at me. I was always hiding my weakness. But one day, I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, "Stop saying sorry. You are learning. You are growing. You are brave." That day changed everything. I promised myself, from now on, I will speak without fear. After that, whenever I talked to someone, I smiled. I spoke slowly and clearly. I didn't say sorry anymore, because learning is not something to be ashamed of. Mistakes are okay. Silence is worse. Staying quiet is what really stops growth. On February 9th, 2019, everything changed again. It had been exactly 26 days since my failed interview. I felt nervous, but ready. I applied to another company. This one was called Allied Contact Solutions. They helped with customer service phone calls. I walked into the office with more confidence this time. I wasn't perfect, but I was better. I used simple, short sentences. I smiled often. I didn't try to impress anyone. I just wanted to be clear and calm. And guess what? They hired me on the spot. $15 per hour. Full-time job, 40 hours every week, and they paid weekly. It was my first job in English. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was in a dream. After the interview, I stepped outside and looked up at the sky. My eyes filled with tears. But this time, they were happy tears. Not because I got the job, but because I kept my promise to myself. I didn't give up. When I entered the office on my first day, it felt like a new world. The office was cool. I heard air conditioners and people talking in fast English. Everyone looked so confident. They laughed and moved like they belonged there. I looked at myself. My hands were sweating. My black trousers were a little too tight. My tie was not straight. I held my blue folder like it was something holy. Inside was my appointment letter. I was proud of it. I sat down at the front desk waiting to be called. I looked at my name tag. It said Ryan in bold letters. Just Ryan. No full name, no story, no fear on the outside, but deep inside, a storm was growing. No one could see how nervous I was. No one knew how hard I had worked to get here. They didn't know about the sticky notes or the voice recordings, but I knew. I knew what it took to get this far. I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't the best speaker. But I had something strong inside me. A decision. A deep promise. I had told myself, I will learn. And I did. Slowly, with mistakes, but with heart. That was more than enough.
I was given a small cubicle with a desktop, a headset, and a piece of paper. The paper said, "Talk slow, smile, be kind." That was the company rule. I read it again and again to calm my nerves. At 11:42 a.m., I received my first real customer call. I took a deep breath and said in one fast line, "Hello, thank you for calling Allied Contact Solutions. This is Ryan speaking. How may I help you today?" My voice was shaking. I was so nervous. The caller was a woman from New Jersey. She was talking very fast. She sounded angry. I didn't understand half of what she was saying. My brain froze on the spot. I tried to stay calm and said, "Can you repeat again, ma'am?" She repeated her words, but I still didn't get it. I felt panic rising. I quickly pressed the mute button and closed my eyes. I whispered, "You are learning. Breathe." Then I unmuted and said, "Ma'am, thank you for your patience. Let me help you right now." I did my best to solve her issue. After 9 minutes, the call ended. My hands were shaking, but I had done it. I put the headset down. I almost cried. Not because the call was hard, but because I didn't give up. I stayed strong. I finished it. I faced my fear and made it through the first real English phone call. The first 2 weeks were full of mistakes. I said he instead of she. I said I am agree instead of I agree. I said recip instead of receipt. My teammates sometimes laughed, but they didn't mean harm. They saw that I was trying. I always smiled and said, "Good morning." I greeted everyone. I stayed late after work. I cleaned my desk. I said thank you often. I helped others when I could. I kept showing respect. One day, a girl named Jessica from the cubicle next to mine said, "Ryan, your English isn't perfect, but your attitude is." That meant a lot to me. It stayed in my heart. I knew I was doing something right. Outside of work, I didn't party or waste time. I was on a mission. I built a strong after-work routine. I called it my real fluency system. I followed it every day because I wanted real progress, not just practice. From 6:30 to 7 p.m., I walked home and spoke English out loud. I talked about my day. Today I handled 32 calls. I learned how to say, "Could you please spell that?" I recorded these talks on my phone daily. I called this habit my daily English diary. It helped me a lot. I could listen later and see my progress. I was learning to think in English. I made mistakes, but I kept going and spoke with more confidence each day. From 7:15 to 8 o'clock p.m., I worked on vocabulary. I didn't just read words, I learned them deeply. I used a notebook with 4 columns: word, meaning in easy English, example sentence, and my own sentence. That system helped me remember new words. For example, one word was apologize, meaning to say sorry. The example sentence was, "I apologize for the delay." My own sentence was, "I apologize when I make a mistake at work." I did this with 5 new words every night. I didn't try to learn 50 words at once, just 5 a day. But I used them, spoke them, and made them part of my life. Those small steps helped me more than anything. I was building real vocabulary. From 8:15 to 9 p.m., I worked on pronunciation. I searched YouTube for pronunciation videos. I paused after every word and repeated it 3 times. I practiced hard words like comfortable and entrepreneur. I didn't rush. I wanted to sound clear. I even practiced tongue twisters. She sells seashells by the seashore. Red lorry, yellow lorry. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. I laughed a lot. I made mistakes. But I kept going. My tongue was learning new moves. From 9:15 to 10 o'clock p.m., I acted out real-life English situations. I pretended I was ordering food or talking to my boss. I said things like, "Hi, I'd like a chicken sandwich." Or, "Excuse me, I have a question about my paycheck." I started acting like I was in real-life situations. I would stand in my room and practice ordering food. I said, "Hi, can I get a chicken sandwich, please? No onions, thanks." I tried to make it sound real. Then I practiced talking to people at work. I said, "Excuse me, I had a question about my salary slip." I also practiced small talk. "How was your weekend?" Then I would reply to myself, "Oh, really? That sounds fun." Every day, I stood in front of the mirror like an actor. I watched my face, my hands, my mouth. I wanted my body language to feel natural when I spoke English. I wanted to look and sound confident. Every Sunday, I did public speaking practice. I called it Sunday speech. I recorded a short speech every week, around 3 minutes long. I picked one topic and spoke about it in English. It was hard at first, but I kept trying. Week 1, I talked about why I wanted to learn English. Week 2, I spoke about my biggest fear. Week 3, I shared how I stay motivated. Week 4, I said one thing I wanted to change about myself. I posted those speeches in a Facebook group for English learners. Some people ignored me, some laughed, but many people supported me. Some sent kind words, some gave advice. That group helped me grow. I was not alone anymore. My mindset began to change. I stopped using the word perfect. I didn't want perfect. I wanted progress. Every day, I told myself, fluency is a journey, not a test. I didn't need big words. I needed real words. Speak, fail, learn, repeat. That became my rule. I celebrated every small win. If I understood a fast sentence on YouTube, victory. If I made a new friend at work, victory. If I stayed calm during a hard phone call, big victory. I still remember one special day. My supervisor, Steve, came to my desk. He said, "Ryan, can you take this client escalation? He's very angry, but I think you can calm him down." He trusted me, and I was ready. I took the call. The man was loud. He had a strong accent. He was very upset, but I stayed calm. I said, "Sir, I understand. Let's work through this together." I listened. I apologized. I offered a clear solution. After 14 minutes, the man said, "You know what? Thanks, Ryan. You're the first guy who actually listened." When I ended the call, my teammates clapped. Not because I was perfect, but because I had earned their trust. That moment changed something inside me. I thought, maybe I can become fluent. Maybe I can help others too. I started believing more. My confidence grew. At work, more people noticed me. They started treating me with respect. Steve told me, "Your calls are getting smoother. Great job, Ryan." A senior teammate smiled and said, "You speak like someone who lived abroad." I felt proud, but not proud in a loud way. Proud in a quiet, peaceful way. That evening, I walked home slowly. When I got home, I looked in the mirror. I stared at myself and said in English, "I am proud of you." I had never said that before. That moment made me feel strong. But I didn't stop there. I knew I was doing okay, but I wanted more. I didn't want to only answer phone calls. I wanted to give speeches, have deep conversations, and tell stories. I wanted to teach others too. I remembered how lost I once felt. I didn't want others to feel that way. I decided to create a new system for myself. I called it Deep Fluency Immersion. It was more than books or videos. It was a lifestyle. Let me explain it clearly. I used a method called language zones. I divided my small apartment into different English learning areas. Each room had one special purpose. Every part of my house helped me learn something new.
The kitchen became my vocabulary zone. I placed small paper notes on every item. The salt had a note. The spoon had a note. The stove, the pan, the fridge, even the cupboards had names. English was everywhere in that kitchen. Every time I cooked, I read the notes. I said the words out loud. Spoon, plate, oven, frying pan. I didn't just cook food. I cooked English. I repeated the words until they felt easy and natural, like part of my daily life. In the bedroom, I made a listening zone. I kept a notebook and headphones next to my pillow. Every night before sleeping, I listened to one English podcast or short story. Sometimes I didn't understand everything, but I didn't stop. The living room became my speaking zone. I used it for mirror practice, role play, and Sunday speeches. That room heard my voice every day. I didn't care if the walls were tired of me. I needed a space to grow. I didn't need a big house or a fancy classroom. I made my own English world with paper, sound, and effort. That system worked because it was simple, regular, and personal. English was no longer a subject, it was my habit.
I spoke every action I did in the kitchen. I said, "Now I'm turning on the stove. I'm adding 2 spoons of sugar. The kettle is hot." I made my mind hear English all the time, even during small things. In my bedroom, I made a new habit. I called it my listening and thinking zone. Every night, I listened to English audiobooks. Before sleeping, I made a rule. No thinking in my native language. Only English inside my head. At first, thinking in English was slow and strange, but I kept trying. I would lie on my bed and think things like, "Tomorrow, I will ask my boss about the new customer report," or "I will wear my blue shirt." It was hard in the beginning, but day by day, my mind got faster. My thoughts became more natural. I didn't need to translate in my head. English slowly became part of me, not just a subject from school. My bathroom became my speaking zone. I printed 10 simple questions and taped them to the mirror. Every morning, while brushing my teeth, I answered them out loud. I asked myself things like, "How was your day?" Or, "What are your goals?" I didn't care how silly I looked. It was my training room. I made eye contact with myself and answered like I was talking to someone. This became my habit. This mirror time helped me build confidence and clear speech. Every Sunday, I did something powerful. I called it the 1-hour mirror challenge. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke for 1 full hour. I didn't use a script. I didn't prepare anything. I just picked a topic and spoke. At first, I could only speak for 5 minutes, then 10. After 1 month, I reached 20 minutes. After 2 months, I hit 40. By the 3rd month, I could speak in English for 1 hour without stopping or freezing. I recorded myself. Then I listened to the recording. I found my mistakes. I said the sentences again in a better way. This helped me a lot. It gave me fluency, confidence, and control over my voice like never before. I also learned English expressions. These small phrases made me sound more natural. For example, break the ice means to start a conversation. Spill the beans means to tell a secret. Once in a blue moon means something that doesn't happen often. Each week, I gave myself small goals. One week, I learned 10 phrasal verbs. Another week, I tried to give feedback in English during a work meeting.
I also called my friend and spoke only English for 30 minutes. Every day, I stood in front of the wall where I posted all my notes. I read out loud. That wall wasn't just a wall anymore. It became my power source. It held my dreams, goals, and daily progress in English. One day, at work, something big happened. My team leader came to me and said, "Ryan, you've come a long way. Would you like to train our new batch of employees?" My heart stopped. I couldn't believe it. Me? A trainer? I remembered my first call when I had cried after the client yelled. I had felt broken and weak. But now, someone believed in me. I took a deep breath and said, "Yes, I'll do it." I felt nervous, but ready. That weekend, I sat down to prepare. I wrote down common phrases, created fun examples, and made small role-play games. I wanted the new team to enjoy learning. I wanted to help them the way I had once needed help. On Monday morning, I stood in front of 20 new employees. I was wearing a blue shirt and black shoes. My hands were cold, but my voice was strong. I gave my first training session. I wasn't perfect, but I was real. People listened. They smiled. They nodded. After the session, a girl came to me and said, "Thank you. I was so nervous before, but now I feel like I can do this." Her words touched my heart. That night, I cried again. But this time, I didn't cry from pain. I cried from pride. I was proud of how far I had come. I was proud that I didn't give up. I kept walking even when the road was hard and full of fear. 1 year later, something amazing happened. I was invited to speak at an event called English Rising Stars in my city. It was a big event. 400 people were sitting in the audience. I had never spoken to such a crowd before. I wore a white shirt and black jeans. I walked on stage. The lights were bright. I looked at the people, smiled, and took a deep breath. Then I said, 3 years ago, I was scared to say my name on a call. Now, I was standing on stage not because I was special, but because I never gave up. I said, fluency is not something you were born with. You build it brick by brick, word by word, mistake by mistake. People clapped, some even cried. That moment proved something important. Anyone can learn. Anyone can grow. You just need the right habits, a strong heart, and the will to try again. I once felt small and lost. Now I stood tall. My voice mattered.
When the event ended, a young boy ran toward me. He hugged me tightly and whispered, "You told my story. Thank you." That moment touched my heart deeply. I didn't know my words could mean so much to someone. After that day, Ryan changed completely. He didn't look down while walking anymore. His shoulders were straight. His steps were strong. His voice had calm power. When he spoke, people listened. He was no longer shy or afraid. This was the same boy who used to practice English secretly in the bathroom. Now he was helping hundreds of people. He was teaching them how to speak English, how to believe in themselves, and how to build better lives. He no longer lived in a small shared room. He moved into a new apartment with wooden floors and white curtains. There was a shelf full of English storybooks. On the balcony, he kept many green plants that he watered every morning. There was also a mirror on the wall. But now, when Ryan looked into it,
He didn't see a scared learner. He saw a strong leader. His eyes were full of hope and confidence. His smile was real. He had come a long way. As his English became better, his relationships also became stronger. Every evening, he called his mother. They spoke in their native language and also in simple English. His mother slowly started learning a few English words too. One night, she said, "Good night, son. I am proud of you." That short sentence meant more to Ryan than any job or money. It filled his heart with joy and made him feel like the richest man in the world. His younger sister, who once laughed at his English, now asked him for help. She had a job interview coming soon. She said, "Brother, you are my role model." Ryan smiled. He was proud of how far he had come. Then something beautiful happened. One rainy Friday, Ryan went to a training event. During lunch break, a girl with kind eyes and a soft voice came to him. She said, "Hi, I've been watching your sessions. You speak very well." Her name was Nina. She was 26 years old and worked as a graphic designer. She also had trouble with English in the past. That first chat between them was short, but it felt special. Something just clicked between them. They started talking more after that day. They didn't only talk about work. They talked about their childhood, their fears, their favorite foods, and their dreams. Every talk brought them closer. They started to understand each other deeply. One day Ryan said, "I want to buy a Mercedes one day, not to show off, but to remind myself how far I've come." Nina smiled and said, "Then I'll sit beside you and we'll go for a long drive." Ryan found love, not just with Nina, but also with life. A life he once thought he could never have. A life full of hope, respect, and love. It was a life he had built with effort, step by step. He was no longer just a call center worker. Because of his good English, kind heart, and leadership, he was promoted. First, he became a training manager. Then, he became a communication coach for new employees in 3 cities. He started earning $5,000 each month. With this money, he paid for his sister's college. He made sure she could follow her dreams just like he followed his. Ryan's life had truly changed for the better. He still worked hard every day, but now he also smiled more. He helped others find their voice. He helped them believe in their own strength. He knew what it felt like to struggle, and he wanted to lift others up. Sometimes he sat on his balcony at night, looking at the stars. The plants around him were green and full of life. The air felt peaceful. He thought about where he started and where he was now. His story was no longer about fear or shame. It was a story of growth, of hope, and of dreams that came true. And it all started with small steps and the belief that change is possible, no matter how hard it seems. The mirror on his wall still stayed in its place. But now it showed a man who had become strong, not just in English, but in life. He was proud of his journey, and he was ready for whatever came next.
Ryan fixed his parents' old kitchen. He painted the walls, bought a new stove, and made the space feel warm again. After that, he started saving money for something big, something he had dreamed of for a long, long time. 2 years later, on his 30th birthday, Ryan walked into a luxury car showroom. His heart was racing. He had dreamed of this moment for 8 years. He placed his hand on a black Mercedes-Benz G-Class and whispered, "We made it." He didn't cry because of the price. He cried because of the memories. Every time he looked at the car, he remembered how far he had come.
from broken pronunciation to bathroom practice, from failure to standing tall with confidence. He thought of his mother's quiet prayers and his promise to never give up. The car wasn't just a dream, it was proof. Proof that belief, effort, and time could turn the impossible into something real. It meant he had won. In the years after buying the car, Ryan became more than just an English coach. He became a guide for life. He believed that learning English was not only about speaking better, it was also about healing, growing, and building self-worth. He shared his most powerful lessons with every student. Lesson 1. English is not hard, it's just new. Talk to yourself. Think in English. Don't study it like a school subject. Live it like a real language used every day. Lesson 2. Fluency is not about speaking fast. It's about speaking clearly, slowly, and with confidence. Don't rush. Use your heart. People understand you better when you speak with care and feeling, not when you speak quickly and nervously. Lesson 3. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes progress. Don't wait to be perfect, just try. Small daily actions create big change. Every word spoken is a step forward. Celebrate progress even if it's just one new sentence each day. Lesson 4. Learn English like a baby. See, hear, and repeat. Don't start with grammar. Start with real sounds and simple words. Lesson 5. Speak in front of a mirror every day. Even 5 minutes can change your speaking confidence completely. Lesson 6. Use the describe your actions method. Say what you are doing in English. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm opening the window. I'm cooking dinner. This makes English part of your daily life and helps you think in English. Lesson 7. Keep a small notebook for new words. Learn 5 new words daily. Use each in 3 simple sentences that connect with your life. That way, the words stay in your mind and become part of your speaking naturally. Lesson 8. Watch English shows with subtitles, then watch without. First, understand. Then feel the words. Then speak. This helps you learn not only language, but emotion and rhythm. Lesson 9. Don't fear mistakes. Fear staying the same. Mistakes mean growth. Every mistake is a brick in your learning wall. Keep building. Lesson 10. Teach someone what you learn. When you explain something, you remember it better. And you give others hope, just like Ryan once needed when he was starting out. By age 32, Ryan was not just fluent, he was a leader. He had fulfilled his mother's dream. He had helped his sister grow. He was a supportive partner and a kind mentor. He turned pain into power and fear into freedom. Each night after dinner, he walked to his balcony. He looked at the stars above and said softly in English, "Thank you, Ryan. You didn't quit. You made your life beautiful, one word at a time. You kept your promise." Maybe you feel lost right now. Maybe you think English is too hard, or maybe you think it's too late. But Ryan's story shows that if you give 1 hour each day, your life will change. You will rise. English is not just a language. It is a doorway to confidence, freedom, love, and pride. All you have to do is open that door. Walk through it one small step at a time. Don't wait. Start now. Go to your mirror, look at yourself, and say out loud, "I can, I will, I must. I am learning English, and I will never stop." The first word is the first brick. One day, you'll build your own story. If this story gave you hope, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with someone who needs motivation today. Your support helps us reach more learners. And always remember, your journey is just beginning. You've got this.